Welcome to this session of the Psychic and Intuitive Abilities Summit. I'm Joy Taylor, your co-host. My guest for this session is Jenai Lane. The topic is how to connect to the Ascended Masters, receive guidance via your high spiritual heart. Jenai Lane is the sought-after intuitive speaker, coach, trainer, and the founder of the Spirit Coach Method, a non-dogmatic approach to accessing the spirit within. Through her gift of seeing and illuminating the divine self, she has helped thousands of people around the world transform their lives and awaken to their true nature. Jenai's most recent book is What Would Love Say? And I am looking forward to talking about all of this and probably more with you today. Welcome, Jenai.
Oh, thank you so much, Joy, for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. You know, what would love say if we could just start there for a moment? Tell us about that book. It's such a great question, actually. And I'm sure within it, there's some great answers.
Yeah. A lot of people say, what is the purpose here? What is the purpose? And if we were to simplify it, I would say the purpose is love, and to direct our attention to who we are as love. So that question came, what would love say, as a way to exit out of the egoic construct, the false self, and into who we truly are as essence, as love. And I think the more that we really focus ourselves with that question, we can come into our divine wisdom and truth and really be guided through the life process. And we all come in with that GPS, right? That God positioning system. And so this particular book is about how do you align with that? And it is a book filled with messages from the Ascended Masters that you get to use to find the truth you need when you need it. So it's like a portal.
And when you say to find the truth you need when you need it, I remember talking to you about the book a little bit, and it's not necessarily read from page 1 to the end, correct?
Correct. Actually, what you do with the book is it is attuned to the frequency of love, right? Love is a frequency. So how you use the book, and I give you this in the beginning, it's a way to calibrate and attune yourself to that frequency of love, which is what you are, by the way. We all are, right? And you tune in. Once you get connected, you hold the book, and then you will get intuitively through your own inner knowing a page, a number. You might hear it, see it, feel it, sense it, because we receive intuition in different ways. And then you open to that passage. And it will reveal to you a truth that perhaps you need to hear today.
What did you open to? Is there a sentence or two you could share?
Sure, I would love to. Holding intention for highest good. Sometimes we just need to hold space for the highest good, even if we don't know what that is. This could include for our family, our friends, our business, and the list goes on. When we are taught to create, we have a vision and hold our intention pointing to that vision, right? So for example, before I get on this interview, I hold an intention for the highest good. Do I know what that is? No, but the divine does. Love knows what to say. And we trust that. We trust that love. So this points you back to your own voice, the voice of love, so that you can begin to follow that and really share your own wisdom with the world, which we all have access to.
Yeah. Wow. This is so beautiful. And I want to know more about the Ascended Masters. You said they're integral into the messages in the book, but let's start with, how did you connect? How did you first connect to the Ascended Masters? What's your story?
Yeah, it's a good question. I wasn't raised in any particular religion. And so I wasn't exposed to the religious figures, to the prophets, to the mystics. So what happened on my path was, early on, I had a lot of psychic abilities when I was a kid, and I would see people that weren't physical. I would know things, but I turned it off. And what happened was in my 20s, I made a really strong commitment to a spiritual practice, to develop my spiritual practice, my gifts. And so every day I said, I'm going to meditate no matter what. And I'm going to use it as an experiment and see if I can really open some of these gifts again. And I did that for about a year. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, in the third dimension, a ascended master appeared on my bed. And she started telling me, after I got over my initial shock, she started telling me who she was. And her name was Bridget, and she's a triple Celtic goddess. And I never even heard, I had no concept of this. And she appeared to me on her high holiday, and she told me all about it and gave me all this information. Now, if I would have known this or read about it previously or learned about it, I would have thought I was making this up. But you can't make this stuff up. So I went and I validated all the information I was given by her. And then I began to develop a relationship with her first. And then other ascended masters began to appear to me over time as I began to open and become more available spiritually, evolving my own development. So that's how it happened for me. And it can happen to absolutely anyone if we make ourselves available, because the ascended masters are here to assist humanity to step into their own mastery. And we are on the Earth School. We're all here in school, every single one of us, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And so we, of course, have these divine teachers who come to help us to return to love, to walk in the light, to develop our gifts, and to serve humanity as a whole. So it's very exciting to understand that I'm not special in any way, that we all have this capacity to connect. And I've been working with people for many, many years now, a couple of decades, teaching them this skill set to be spirit-led instead of ego-led. And I watch people's gifts turn on, their abilities, their intuition, and all of a sudden they're able to connect and communicate to these beautiful, loving beings who are here to assist us.
This encounter with Bridget, who is one of my faves, by the way, I love it. This encounter happened in your 20s. I'm curious, between 20 and today, you've had a journey. And what have been some of the challenging times or the ways that you've become more spirit-led and yourself become less ego-led?
Yeah. Well, let me back up a little bit and kind of share a little bit about, I mentioned before that I had turned off my gifts because they scared me when I was little, because no one wanted to hear the truth. And I didn't want to scare people. I saw it really scared people. So I kind of did the human thing. I said, okay, well, what's going on? So I thought, okay, I'm going to build a company. I'm going to try to make a difference in the world, and I'm going to do what society says is success. And I achieved a lot of success very early on. I built a consumer products company. I did wonderful things. I made films. I did a lot of things. I got my 15 minutes of fame, and all of a sudden, probably at the top of my game, I thought, why am I feeling unfulfilled? What is missing? I mean, it looks really good from the outside. And I was really grateful, but there was this longing in me. I knew there was more. And there was almost this sadness, like this can't be it. And so, in that moment, I realized I had to walk away from all of that external success and find my truth. What was I here to do? What was really my purpose? And so I went on this quest all over the world to sit with enlightened teachers and to meditate in Brazil for weeks on end and all these different things. And I was looking for the answers outside of myself. And the wise ones who I said, hey, what should I do with my life? They would point me back and they say, Jenai, just be. And I didn't understand what that meant at the time, right? And so it took a while for me to realize the answers were here inside, not out there. And so when I got really serious about spiritual practice and about listening with my heart instead of my mind, things began to change very rapidly for me, very, very rapidly. And I changed the question I was asking from what am I supposed to do with my life to how can I serve? Big pivot when I did that. And once I started asking that, I remember returning from a meditation retreat and I couldn't stop writing for a year and I didn't know what it was. And it was the answer to the question, how can I serve? It became this spirit coach method that I now teach, which is a non-dogmatic approach to aligning with spirit, the spirit within, right? So that then I began to practice what I was given from the Ascended Masters and then teach it and then certify people in this particular method. So my process is always evolving. I mean, that's still my question. Still today, I put down, I surrender what I think I know, and I say, how can I serve? Because that's how I keep evolving, and we can all keep evolving. It's really exciting. It doesn't end, you know?
Well, and I'm thinking of the courage it took back then to leave what looked good to go for what felt right to you, to go on that quest. And recently you had another move in your life, which I'm guessing took a lot of courage as well. Talk about your recent move, how you got directed to move, and how can people cultivate the courage to listen to the guidance when it comes?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great question, is how can we listen to the guidance when it comes? Because oftentimes we dismiss the guidance. And so I really encourage people to keep an evidence journal. And this is where when you get an intuitive hit or nudge, or you get guidance, you write it down. And then you write down the evidence. If you follow it, what was the positive outcome? If you don't follow it, what happened? Because if you pay attention, you'll start to see a pattern that when you follow your truth, it works. It leads you down the right path, but you have to experiment with it. At first I didn't trust it. I was listening to my mind. Well, logically you should do this, not that, and then I would follow the mind, not the intuition. I would see, well, that didn't work, or that was the wrong path for me at that time. And so then I started to follow and listen. And now I've built enough evidence where I do not question. I am so grateful that I can follow that inner guidance now. And so when I got the guidance to kind of leave my home of 30 years in the Bay Area, where I had quite a large spiritual community and soul friends and the whole bit, and I was told by one of the Ascended Masters to move to Sedona. And I had been doing retreats here for years and years, and I love Sedona. It's probably the most magical place for me on planet Earth, but I never considered living here. And I was told to sell my home, pick up and move, because I could be of the greatest service to planetary healing and the healing of humanity from here. And I knew what that meant. I knew what it meant because I know Sedona itself is calibrated as one of the highest vibrations on planet Earth. So whatever you do here is magnified 100-fold. And being here a year now, it's really proven true that something in me is opening even more, and more healing energy is pouring through, and the people that come to work with me here are having mystical experiences, and they're connecting to the ascended masters directly. So yeah, it's just about that willingness to have the courage to follow the guidance, and to be able to be discerning. Where is the guidance coming from? Because not all guidance is coming from masters. Okay, so it's very important to understand that to develop that attunement, so you know where the guidance is coming from, right? First, we have to discern between ego and the voice of spirit, right? We are all spirit. So intuition is the voice of spirit. And then we have to discern between, there are many realms and many beings that do not have bodies. So then we have to discern between relatives that are on the other side, and guides and angels and masters, right? So there's this whole world out there. I mean, with our senses, with our five senses, they say we're only taking in 2% of what is actually there. So the 98% lives in the subtle realms. So imagine what happens when we begin to open up our psychic abilities, our intuitive abilities. We start to be privy to more of that 98%, which is really where we'll find more truth often, and more love.
Absolutely. And so let's go there. Let's go to that question that you are asking each of us to ask ourselves, which is, who am I speaking to? And so how can individuals discern if they start hearing voices, or maybe seeing an image, or get these messages or downloads, even in automatic writing? How can people know, who are they speaking with?
Yeah, this is really important. So one of the things that I would say is, when the masters communicate with us, there is such a feeling of love, of pure, unconditional love. And it is palpable. It is mind-blowing how beautiful it is. In fact, when Mary Magdalene appeared once to me, I communicate with her now, but when she first appeared to me, she said, "Jenai, it's time to remember." And this immense love just was transmitted to me. And it was overwhelming. I mean, tears were just pouring down my face. The beauty, the exquisite grace of that love. And this is an indicator. You will always know a master by their humility, by their non-conditional love, by their respect of your free will. They are very humble beings. In fact, they often say to me, we are the same. That, because at first I would always say, well, you're so, above me. And I would create this hierarchy like we do. And they say, no, we are the same. You can't be more or less than God. You can't be more or less. And so you can feel that in their transmission. Their transmission is very, very neutral. They never try to impose. There's no push or pull in it. And so you can feel it and when I say feel, I don't mean emotions. I mean as a felt sense, like a tuning fork in your own heart. Your heart's a tuning fork for truth. That's why we all have a high spiritual heart. It's a tuning fork for truth. So you can feel. Now, if ever I was wanting to discern, the other thing that I would do, because I would have all kinds of beings appear to me that didn't have bodies. And if ever I was unsure, I would take beautiful diamond light and I would shine it on the being. And if the being was discordant or not congruent, it would just go away. But if it was, a master, a very high being of light, they welcome your discernment. In fact, they encourage it. They encourage you. So that's one way. One way is the felt sense. And the second way I'm mentioning is you can take high vibration light and you can shine it on that being to see if they go away or they remain. And then you can ask them, you can say, who are you? And you'll notice if you're ever feeling that you're pushed or pulled in any one direction, that's not a master. They honor your free will. In fact, they love it. They want you to choose love through your own volition.
You have mentioned Bridget and Mary Magdalene, and maybe you can share some of the other ascended masters that are available for all of us to connect with and the ones that you most often find yourself conversing with.
Yeah, absolutely. So, some of the masters we know by name and others we don't, and maybe they come from other traditions or they're just not known or recorded. And one of the masters that's a lesser known master appeared to me when I most needed her. And this is at a time where my heart was broken. And all of us, as part of the human experience, have those times where literally our heart breaks and we're on the floor in a puddle of tears, and we don't know what to do. We don't know how to meet that pain. And this particular master, her name is Teresa of Verzeri. And I later found out she was an Italian mystic when she was on the earth plane. Now she's assisting us as an ascended master. And she came to me in that moment when I said, I can't face my pain. And in that moment, what I'd always done in the past when I had heartbreak was I would just paste it back together, and put on a happy face and try to fix it and make it work. And she said, Jenai, let it break. Let it break. Let it shatter. Let your heart shatter into a million pieces. And I thought, oh my God, will I survive? And she said, trust me. And I could hear her. And she walked me through this process. And I did. I let it shatter. And all of a sudden, what was there was the high spiritual heart. The sacred heart that we see bursting out of the heart of Mother Mary or Jesus, or the Sufi heart, with wings. And there it was, this inside my own being, this bastion of infinite light that was indestructible. Some of the mystics call it the diamond within because it's so strong. And what she began to teach me and show me is that our high spiritual heart has the power to transmute our wounding and to cleanse the emotional heart. She began to teach me that we have 3 hearts. And we have the high spiritual heart, we have the emotional heart, and we have the wounded heart. And most people are so identified with the wounded and emotional heart that they don't want to go here. It doesn't feel good. So we tend to build walls, right, in front of our heart because we've got this wounding from childhood, most of us. And we this is where we keep it. And the emotional heart, because in our culture, we're not good at expressing emotion, gets very clogged up like a stagnant pond, And so without the high spiritual heart, we really don't have the power to transmute this energy. And so I began to do that with her guidance. And it illuminated to me this vast bastion of boundless love that was right here. I was always chasing love out there, right? Where is it out there? Whether it's in partners or mates or in gurus or whatever. no, here it is. This is what we're all longing for and seeking. It's right here. And so once we have access to that, we have access to what I would call unity consciousness. And unity consciousness is where we are one. It's our oneness. And when we are one, our psychic or intuitive abilities are so attuned because we're connected to all that is, to the earth herself, to others. And we approach life with a reverence. All life is sacred because we are a part of that, So it changes our walk in the world. So this particular ascended master was one that was very instrumental, and she has channeled different teachings that I now share with others, helping them to access their high spiritual heart.
I'd love to just show the spiritual heart on the screen while we're here for a moment. If you want to share anything else about it and this image while we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was an image that I was shown from Teresa to use as a teaching tool to help others to understand that even when we have wounding, even when we have very difficult emotions like shame or guilt or rage, that our high spiritual heart is big enough, luminous enough to hold it. It can actually hold it, and we can ignite it so that we can actually feel the capacity of unconditional love that exists within each one of us. And so that nothing becomes, fearful. So many things are so fearful to us, like our emotions, that we won't go there, we won't meet them, right? But if we really mind the capacity of the high spiritual heart, we have the ability to not only hold what is bothering us, but then to meet it and then transmute it and return it to love, because everything is in the process of returning back into love, everything. And so we can sort of expedite that process when we're utilizing consciously the high spiritual heart to do this.
Can you take us through a process or an experience to activate the high spiritual heart?
Yeah, I'd love to. Now, I just want to say one thing before we do this is I always say, be a scientist in your own life. So see what your experience is, but show up 100%. And because if you say, oh yeah, this isn't going to work for me, then it won't. So just show up 100% and see what happens, just be a scientist, just observe. And the other thing I would say is just have beginner's mind. Just say, okay, when we show up in humility, we tend to receive so much more, because we render our mind moot by saying, I don't know, maybe I don't know. And we put it down, and then we can have our experience, because it's only the mind that gets in the way. That monkey mind, All right. So here's what we're going to do. So first thing I want you to do is touch your high heart. So just put your hand on your high heart, because what that does is it starts to bring your attention, your consciousness from your head to your heart. And as someone who sees energy, most people live from their head up. They're really disembodied. And so we want to bring our point of attention right here. Now, I want you to imagine your nose is located here instead of on your face. And you're breathing in from here. So you're breathing in peace. And you're breathing out whatever is in the way of peace. And your nose is right there in your high heart, breathing in peace. And breathing out anything you need to release in this moment. Breathing in peace and out, and you're dropping down in. Now I want you to notice there's a secret way into the high heart, and that's through the back door. The back door is not as guarded as the front. So I want you to imagine on the next inhalation, the door to the back of your heart opens right on your back. Breathe in. And this beautiful door opens, this beautiful, magnificent door. And all this light is pouring out. This crystalline diamond light is pouring out. And imagine now that you bring your consciousness and you imagine you're walking in to the back of your heart. And you're walking into the middle of this beautiful crystalline cavern. Beautiful prisms of rainbow light everywhere. And it begins to expand as you're relaxing into this beautiful sacred space of your high spiritual heart. You're literally inside it, and it's growing and getting bigger and bigger and more luminous. And you're just surrounded in this unconditional love, compassion, clarity, grace. These are the divine qualities that are located in your high spiritual heart. And I want you to notice that your heart is unitive. You can connect to any master you wish to from this place. And I want you to invoke a master. So if we were to invoke something like, I invoke master, and just see who comes. I invoke this divine light and divine grace. I ask this master to be present now. And you imagine this luminous tower of light coming towards you, walking towards you. And you begin to feel such love, such profound love this being has for you. And as they get closer, you may be aware of who this master is. And just feel their transmission of love, for this is of the utmost importance in your own evolution. And now, instead of really coming up with all your questions, just surrender them. And just ask this master, what do you need to know now? What do you need to know now? And listen for your answer. And as you receive that answer, let it assimilate. Know that you are taking this in through your intuition, through the wisdom of your own high heart. And as you've made this connection with this master, you can always come to this sacred place to exchange communication, transmissions of love, guidance, truth, wisdom. And as you thank this master for coming, you exit the back of your high heart, but you are now here present in this grounded, calm, beautiful space, but feel your energy. Feel how your whole body now is filled with love and perhaps wisdom that you received and garnered from that master. How was that for you, Joy?
Oh, that was so beautiful. What's happening for me is I'm itching. My third eye has been itching for about 5 minutes as we're talking. And so in this short amount of time, probably everyone had some kind of an experience. I know for me, my message was, you are safe. And the colors were golden and just a lovely blue, a really lovely blue. So kind of brings me to that next question about the different ascended masters. So could you just run through, I don't know, give us like 3 or 4 ascended masters, what they represent, what colors they often show up in. So those people who had an experience, they might not have gotten a name, but they might have got colors or a message.
I love that you receive colors because we're all frequency. That's what we are. We're actually colors. That's really who we are. And so when we perceive the masters, we will perceive them as frequencies. And so it's really important to understand that. And I also love that your third eye was opening, because often the masters come and they turn on our gifts, right? They turn them on. They help us open more and more of our innate spiritual gifts so we can be of more service in our own lives and the lives of others, which is really great. So one of the masters that I've worked with is Master Jesus or Yeshua a lot. And, he just came to me and started teaching me about healing, a lot about healing and how to heal. And I've always been interested in miracle healing. And so, being raised culturally Jewish, culturally secular, not religiously, I have pictures of Jesus all over my house, as well as many of the other masters. And people will come over and say, wait a minute, I thought you were raised Jewish. And, so what's really important to understand about the masters and when they come to you is they are so beyond dogma and belief systems, because they're love, they're pure love. They've transcended ideology and belief systems, and they don't belong to a religion or to a spiritual group. They are here for everyone, all of humanity. And this is really important to understand, because sometimes we'll be confused when a master comes. Another a master that I work with is Ascended Master Mother Mary. And Mother Mary has really taught me to hold my own pain and also the pain I feel for the world. Oftentimes I'm very sensitive, and I know probably people watching are empaths, and you're sensitive too, and you feel the pain of the world. I mean, what's happening in the world. And so she's helped me to hold it. She's really taught me about how do you hold pain, not only your own, but others as well. And the things that bother us. Another master that I work with is Yogananda, and he has really taught me a lot about meditation and transcending the mind, and how to move into higher states of consciousness. And he's also come in when I have to make a very important decision and I'm stuck. Not that he gives me the decision, he just helps me raise to a higher consciousness so that I can perceive my truth. And this is really a signature of the masters. They're not going to give you all the answers. If you come in and you say, wow, what am I supposed to do with my career? Da, 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 da. All our little monkey mind. That's not really what they're here for. They will teach us profound truths and wisdom and tools to help us to evolve through our own free will. So they're not going to just, fix it for us. They're there for us and they're supporting us, but they're helping us to grow into our own mastery. Right? This is the point. We're all here to step into our own mastery. And, we wouldn't have it any other way. We came for that, and if you're listening to this summit, you're aware of that on some level.
It's so beautiful who you've mentioned. And I just want to reflect some of my own experiences here just to add some nuance. So Yogananda has a hermitage in Encinitas, and I'm a pilgrim, as you are, right? You were brought to Sedona for the frequency. I live in Mount Shasta for the frequency, and I was drawn to Encinitas. And when I toured his hermitage and I came to his bedroom, I fell to my knees and I started to cry. And people say that saying of falling to our knees, or I understood viscerally, right? What that means to bow to one who is, it's not Yogananda I'm bowing to that inside of me, which is that pure and dedicated and loving. And so I had that physical experience. I also got to go to Mother Mary's beautiful temple space in Jerusalem. And in that pilgrimage, I felt such purity. I had never really understood what a pure, loving frequency, a healing frequency really could be, the amount of compassion and love there. I'm sharing a little bit just to add some nuance. And for some of us that maybe are really physical based or kind of, more noticing that we shift our frequency when we're in the presence of others or in the presence of a location, that's good too. Which kind of brings me to my next question, because I know you lead retreats and people come to you in Sedona. So what are some exciting things that are coming up with your work where people can be with you in sacred places?
Yes, absolutely. I love what you were saying about sacred pilgrimage, because I started doing that when I was 19, where I would have to go to, for example, I didn't know why, but I had to go to Ephesus in Turkey. I had to go there, and you know, I wasn't consciously doing it where I was going to visit a sacred site, but I had to go there. And all of a sudden I'd have these mystical experiences. And it wasn't until, a few years later that I realized I was going there to turn on the frequency I'd forgotten from other lifetimes and collect the gifts and then bring them in. So now I take people on spiritual pilgrimage, or they come to me for pilgrimage in Sedona, where I help them to activate and remember who they came to be, who they are, innately. And so part of some of the things that I do, I lead retreats in Sedona, and you can come and work with me here in these very high frequencies and sacred energies. And the masters are also here working with those that come through me, through them, to really open their gifts and step into the work that they are here to do. And I lead pilgrimage to other places as well. And I also do different things where I teach online. And one of the gifts that I have is I'm able to take a frequency, let's say from Mary Magdalene's holy mountain in France, La Saint Baume, and bring it here, and then transmit it. That's one of the gifts that I have. So I can bring the frequency, transmit it, and then what happens is other people start vibrating in that, and it wakes up in them and helps them remember their light. So it's really exciting how it works. The power of transmission is so phenomenal. So those are some of the things that I offer and that I do. I also have a book called Spirit Led Instead, which gives a lot of wonderful tools to help one to, if you like the self-study route, to help you really have a practical application of turning on your spiritual gifts.
I can tell you that I'm still itching in my third eye. So we don't have to, we can, but we don't have to take the pilgrimage. We can actually get this right now, every single one of us. And as you said, your transmission and whatever else is happening in the house, in those subtle realms.
Yes.
We welcome it. We welcome it. Jenai, your website for people to check out more.
Sure. It's spiritcoachtraining.com. Yeah. And there's a lot of offerings there for people that are free, or that you can go on and sort of sample and see if it feels like a fit, a resonance for you.
Perfect. So we have a couple more minutes and we've covered a lot of ground, but what would be a core message that you would like to share and leave people with for this Psychic and Intuitive Ability Summit?
Yeah, I think, one of it is a story, that I went through this period, where I was just seeking, going here, going there, going to this teacher, that teacher. And I couldn't get enough of that. And then one day I was sitting in meditation, and the master said to me, Jenai, we want you to stop doing this for a year. We want you to stop looking out there, and we want you to just go in and listen to your own inner guidance. And that year was so pivotal for me because on some level, I was giving my power away. And it was a way to return to that empowerment, to be able to really build trust in my own wisdom and truth that came from the divine within me. And so I really want to say that I think we're in an era, this time on the planet, where these big shifts are happening. We're really being asked to step into our own wisdom and be guided by love, the love within. And I know that everyone knows their next step. And that if you just stop long enough to listen, it will come. When you're patient, it will come, and you can trust that. And then all of a sudden you find your life is flowing, and you're doing things that you didn't think were possible, and you're serving in ways that you couldn't have imagined. Because when we step into our light and we trust our truth, we give others permission to do the same. And that's how we create a world filled with more love and truth.
I'm smiling ear to ear, and I really hope others are as well. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank you first, Jenai. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank the Ascended Masters, all of them that came and are coming in this very, very moment. Thank you.
Thank you to the Ascended Masters. I mean, they are here. They are present for all of you. It comes through right through the video. There's no time or space.
And thank you to all of you for joining us.
Thank you.